Hi everyone, are you guys able to hear me? Just drop a quick yes or no in the chat. Let me enable the chat for everyone. Okay. Am I audible, guys? Everyone? Is my voice loud and clear? Hi everyone, are you able to hear me? Say yes or no in the chat, guys. Guys, am I audible? I guess I can only see message from Pawan. Anything specific? Okay, yep. Okay, looks good. Okay, how's everyone? How's everyone doing? How's everyone doing, guys? Good. I'm good as well. Thanks for asking, Omka. Okay, cool. So, is everyone able to see my shared screen, guys? Is everyone able to see my shared screen? Okay, cool. So let's start. So in the last class, we wrote a very important service that was the JWT service, and we tried to actually run the code and everything as well. And looks like more or less things are working fine for us. Can I say that, everyone? Yes or no? Okay, cool. So now what we're going to do is using this JWT service, we are going to try to write an API that will actually help us to create a token and send it as a response. Are you guys able to get this point? Is this point making sense, guys? So if you carefully see the Spring security configuration, we have allowed the sign-in request altogether. The sign-in request is coming up altogether already. Can I say that? Okay. So let's start implementing a few things here. So you can see, I already had a get mapping / sign-in / passenger. Okay. And let's see what kind of a structure we would like to build. So here in the sign-in request, what we are going to get is we are going to get an email and a password. Yes or no? We are going to get an email and a password, guys. And then using that email and a password, we have to actually authenticate whether the user is valid or not. Are you guys able to get this point? Abhijit, let me discuss with the team and let you know. I've noted your request. Don't worry. Sir, one doubt. We will share this JWT token to client on login. How will this JWT secret be used? I am not clear of the JWT secret key. This secret key that we prepared inside our application properties, this one. Dhruv? So this secret key is actually used by the algorithm. If you remember, if I show you jwt.io, and if you remember properly, just a second. Just a minute, guys. Let's wait for it to open. Okay. If you carefully remember, then we have to give a private key here as well, right? For this RSA SHA 256 algorithm to work, to create the signature part. Remember? To create the signature part altogether. So this key is actually used by the algorithm. This key that we pass is actually used by the algorithm here. Are you able to get this point? Anybody else having any questions? Before we continue, I would like to take up some questions maybe. Guys, let's have some like if you guys have any questions with the, because I can see Spring security discussion have been like pretty complex. So anybody having any questions, feel free to ask. Let's first of all take up the questions. Like if someone has our JWT token, they can paste it in jwt.io and can get the data. Yes, that's correct, Dhruv. That's why in the token payload, you should not have sensitive information, right? Token should only for the unique identification, nothing much. Yes, Pawan. Pawan also has the same question. If you lose your JWT token, then people can decrypt it. Guys, people can actually decrypt it. That's why you should not lose the token. Like you cannot have like a fails, like 100% fail safe mechanism. There will be some at some place where you might need to do things properly. Are able to get this point? That's why security of the token is important. Anybody else having any questions? Also, we would be sharing one secret key to client for verification of token. No, client will receive the token. There will not be any verification that will be done on the client end. Whatever token client receives, client will assume that that's the absolutely correct token that it has received. Are you able to get my point? Client is not going to do any kind of validation or verification altogether. Does that point make sense, Dhruv? More questions, guys. I would like to have some more questions. I know this can be something tricky. No, Omkar, not yet. So how will we verify the client is authorized like we did in the OAuth part? So for the OAuth, Google is one more layer, right? So Google needs to do that verification because there is one more layer between us and the server. That's the Google layer. So Google also needs to do this verification. Here we do not have any layer. We are there and the server is there. So whatever server is going to return us, we are going to just directly verify that. That's it. Because now just think about it. Now BookMyShow replaces Google servers. BookMyShow has its own servers as an authorization server and resource server as well. Then you do not need to do anything, right? You have yourself deployed them. Google is, if Google Auth servers come into the picture, that's a separate entity altogether. Make sense? Anybody else having any questions? We will store this token in HTTP only cookie on client side. That's one of the preferred ways. You will find people storing it in session storage, local storage as well. But again, from there is a highly likely chance of them being stolen. Like anybody who has access to your browser can actually access it. Somebody is asking class started. Oh, did I not notify on the group? Just a second. Okay, cool. Let's come back in that case. Now, one thing you have to keep in mind is that what Spring Security offers us is a bunch of inbuilt set of configuration that we can use. Whatever implementation that we are going to do, we can absolutely end-to-end avoid it as well, right? We can absolutely end-to-end avoid it as well to actually implement the whole authentication mechanism. What Spring Security does is, Spring Security says that there are a bunch of things that they recommend that if you want to actually implement Auth, you can use those inbuilt solutions altogether. If you want, you can make your own solutions as well. Doesn't matter to them. Are you able to get this point? Okay. Now, for example, so Spring Security actually gives us something like a user details class, right? User details class. Can you see? User details, Spring Security. Can you see this? Okay. What is this user details interface? This provides some core user information. Can you see inside this interface, you have some password, get password method, get username method, is account non-logged, non-expired, enabled, non-expired, get authorities. These kind of methods are there. Are you guys able to get this point? Drop a quick yes or no in the chat. Okay. Is everyone able to see this class or see this interface? Okay. So what Spring Security says that you can actually, whatever entity you want to authenticate, what you can do is you can write a custom implementation of that entity and map it to the user details interface, like overload all of these methods from the user details interface. Then it will become slightly more consistent for your implementation to actually work out. For example, if you actually see here, if you go back, you can say Spring Security, user details service, and user details with example. Now, can you see in Spring Security, the user details service interface is a core component used for loading user specific data. It is responsible for retrieving user information from a backend source, such as database or external service. Can you see? So Spring Security actually gives us an interface that we can actually use. If you don't want to use it, absolutely okay. If you don't want to use it, it's absolutely end-to-end okay. No problem. You can write your own end-to-end custom implementation altogether as well. Are you guys able to get this point? Okay. But Spring Security does recommend that, okay, you can use these inbuilt solutions as well. Okay. So what we can do is we want to authenticate our passenger. Can I say that? We want to authenticate our passenger. Okay. So what we'll do is we are going to write a brand new class, right? So let's come up here. And this class is also again part of security. So what I'll do is I'll create a new package, security. Okay. And here I'm going to create a brand new class. You can say custom passenger details. Okay, we are going to write a class custom passenger details. Now, what this class will do is this is going to extend our passenger class. So it is going to inherit from our original passenger model, and it is going to implement the user details interface altogether. Can you guys see? The moment I say implements user details, it throws us an error and it asks us to override all of these methods. So I'll just add up them all together. Can you guys see this? Okay. Is this point making sense? So if you like, again, they just recommend that if you are going to use this interface, then Spring Security will be able to handle all the authentication and authorization checks in a more graceful way. Because if you carefully see this interface, it asks you to have is enabled. Like, have you enabled the account or not? Is the account non-logged? That have you logged the account or not? Is the credential not expired? Can you see these kind of methods are there? And then there is a get username method as well. There is a get authority method as well. Get authority is what? Get authority is kind of like your roles, that what are the roles available for the given user. Are you guys able to get this point? Is this point making sense? Say yes or no in the chat. Okay. So what we're going to do is, and let's not name it as custom passenger details. Let's rename this file to auth passenger details. Okay, auth passenger details. Cool. Okay. Now here, for the passenger details, what we are going to have is, we'll say, let's say private string email. Private string password. Okay. And we are going to have a constructor public auth passenger details. Okay. And here we are going to take a passenger object. Passenger. Okay. We are going to say this dot, and let's not call it as email, let's call it as username. Okay. Now, why we are calling username? Because in Spring Security, the unique identifier is actually referred as username. Now, here you can keep an email if you want, you can keep a name if you want to keep a user ID, anything you can keep. But in Spring Security, they call it as username. So I'll say the username for our passenger class, which will be the unique identifier, is going to be passenger.getEmail. Are you guys able to get this point? And the password, this dot password is going to be passenger.getPassword. Are you guys able to get this point? Drop a quick yes or no in the chat. Okay, makes sense. We do not have any mechanism for roles as of now, so I'm going to keep this part as empty. Okay, right? And then in the get username method, what we are going to return is, we are going to return this dot username. Okay, and these implementation, we can just say, is the account non-expired? True. Account is not expired. Account is not logged. True, because we don't want all of these mechanisms. Okay. Is the credential non-expired? True. Is enabled? True. Okay. I'll just make them all true altogether. Make sense? Because we overall don't need all of these methods much. Okay. Below set of methods are not much of a concern because of our business logic, because we are not locking any account or anything. So based on our business logic, the below set of method doesn't bother us a lot. Make sense, guys? And this is going to be a auth passenger details class that we are going to have. Now you might be thinking, why do you need this class? Why do you need this class? Now this class is needed. This class is needed because, can you see, this is going to implement user details. Okay. So in Spring Security, whenever an authentication happens, Spring Security does that authentication on a user details object altogether. Are you able to get this point? Okay. So that's why it is important to convert our own object into a polymorphic type of user details object. How many of you guys are able to get this point? I don't want to move forward. First of all, let's have the complete understanding here. Okay. And one more thing that you can do is, maybe instead of security, I don't like the word security, because maybe we can just rename it to have helpers. Okay. Okay, let's make it as helpers, because a helper class, it is not going to provide much of things apart from just giving a polymorphic type of user details. So I'm going to make a helpers package on it. Any questions from anyone that why we are making it? I'll just quickly write it here as well. Why we need this class? Because Spring Security works on user details polymorphic type for auth. Are you able to get this point? Say yes or no in the chat. Any questions from anyone? Okay. And the best part is, because Spring Security internally can provide you multiple different ways of authentication. So having a user details object kind of like makes things standard for it. Otherwise, Spring Security will not be able to understand, because now somebody wants to authenticate based on phone number. Somebody wants to authenticate based on username. It becomes hard for it, right? Either you write your own custom implementation altogether, but if you want to rely on Spring Security, it says that please convert your type to my polymorphic type. Make sense? No problem, Dhruv. Got it, guys? Please say yes or no in the chat. Otherwise, things might be difficult. Okay. Cool. I assume that is a yes from most of the people. Okay. Yes, this is our custom implementation so that we can convert our passenger to the user details polymorphic type. Okay. Cool. Now, what we have to do is, we have to write a service. And we are going to call this particular service as user details service implementation. Now, user details service is coming from this user details class. So we need a service class, and which actually implements the user details service, I would say, interface. So can you see there is an interface, user details service, and this interface has only one method, load user by username. So whatever is your unique identifier, you pass that, and based on that unique identifier, you load a user details object. Can you guys see this? Okay, so we'll implement this method. And again, you can now probably understand when is this service will be required. Whenever Spring Security needs to fetch the user by the particular unique identifier. For example, whenever it wants to fetch the user by email, it is going to come up to this particular function and call it. Are you able to get this point, guys? Say yes or no in the chat. Cool. So what we can do here is, we can mark this class with @service so that Spring Boot takes care of it as well. And here, what we can do is, we can say passenger, okay, is equals to, let's make a passenger repository because we need to fetch the passenger. Oh, we already have a passenger repository. Okay, so we can say passenger repository. You can see all the injection already came up. Dot find. Okay, so I guess we have to implement a method here. So this is going to return you a optional passenger, find passenger by email, and we are going to pass a string email altogether. Makes sense? So we are going to expose a method find passenger by email, and what this is going to do is, this is going to return a optional of passenger, find passenger by email. Okay, and we are going to pass username in the email. Why username in the email? Why this argument? Because email is the unique identifier. Okay, email is the unique identifier. And of course, like method overloading doesn't care about the variable name. So for simplicity, you can keep the variable name as email only so that you have your context properly in your head. Okay, and this is going to return you a passenger object altogether. How many of you guys are able to get this point? Drop a quick yes or no in the chat. Okay, so what will happen is, whenever Spring Security needs to find a user by the email, because it will require it to find the user by the email, you might be having a question when it requires to find the user by email. I'll answer that question in some time. But whenever it needs to find that, it will actually rely on this services, this particular class. Got it, everyone? Make sense, guys? Okay. And what we can now do is, we can say if passenger dot is present. Okay, that means the passenger object is actually present. Then what we are going to do is, we are going to convert this passenger object into what? Can you see what is this function returning? What is this function returning? User details. And we need to convert our passenger to the user details. So we are going to technically return a auth passenger details. Can I say that? So we're going to say return new auth passenger details. And we are going to say passenger dot get. Make sense, everyone? and we can just call it like this. Okay. Or let's wait for it. One second. Let's wait for it because we have to do one more thing. Else, let's not return null. Can you see this function throws an exception? Username not found exception. Who has written this exception? Can you see this parts? This is the part of the Spring security. Can I say that? So if we are not able to find the user, we are going to say throw new username not found exception altogether. Okay. And inside this exception, you can pass a message. Cannot find the user by the given email. Okay. Or cannot find the passenger. Let's call it as passenger. Got it? And that's it. This is going to be our overall method altogether. Make sense, guys? Okay. So we can say, I'll just write the quick documentation for this class. Okay. So this class is responsible for loading the user in the form of user details object for auth. Got it, guys? Okay, so let's commit both of these things. Get status, git add all, added user details class and user details service IMPL given by Spring Security. One second. Git push. There we go. Make sense, everyone? So this much part we are done with. This much part we are done with. We have a auth passenger detail which converts the user passenger in the form of user details. And we have a service which will be automatically called by Spring Security altogether. Everyone, is this point making sense? Say a yes or no in the chat. Anyone with any questions? Okay. Now, few more things we have to set up. Okay. Few more things we have to set up. Now we'll come back to the Spring Security class. Remember the Spring Security class where we actually defined that what all requests should be allowed, what all should not be allowed. So here we need a bean. Here we need a bean @ bean. What bean do we need? We need a bean of authentication provider. Authentication provider. Anybody knows what is authentication provider? Anybody knows what is the authentication provider and why do we need it? Anyone else apart from Akash? Okay. So what authentication provider does is, it's kind of like an internal object. If you carefully open it, can you see? It indicates a class can process a specific authentication implementation. Okay. It says that it can do a specific type of a authentication implementation altogether. Can you guys see? It is an authentication provider. So if you go to the authentication class, can you see? There is this authentication class where you can actually define kind of like the strategy in which how the authentication should be actually done. Are you able to get this point? Okay. So you can say that it's a strategy interface. It's a strategy interface. This authentication provider is a strategy interface that allows for various type of authentication schemes to be pluggable in your application. Okay. And here you can actually provide the logic of how to actually authenticate a user based on the username, based on the username and password, based on anything, email and password, based on anything else. Okay. This is the point where you are actually going to identify or I would say specify your authentication logic. Make sense? So you can read about authentication provider. Authentication provider, Spring Security. Okay, that's why we are going step by step, guys, so that you have all the context. You can see Spring Security authentication provider. The authentication provider. Spring Security provides a variety of options for performing authentication. That means that Spring Security actually gives us different ways to do the authentication. These options follow simple contract. An authentication provider processes an authentication request. All of these techniques that Spring Security is providing us has a common contract. What is the common contract? The common contract is that authentication provider is going to process an authentication request. Okay. And a fully authenticated object with full credentials is returned. It returns an authenticated object. The standard and the most common implementation. Now, did I say that it provides you variety of options for implementation? The most common one is the DAO authentication provider, which retrieves user details in a simple read-only user DAO, the user detail service. Now, do you think the story connects? Do you think the story connects? So here we have an implementation of the authentication provider, that how the authentication should be done. Right? There are different techniques. One of the technique is DAO authentication provider, which needs the user detail service. The user detail service only has access to the username. And do you remember? Our user detail service has access to what? Only the username. Can I say that? That is in our case, the email. The unique identifier username in our case is the email. Can I say that? In order to retrieve the full user entity, which is enough for most scenarios. So let me tell you how exactly things are going to be done. Okay. So just give me a second, guys. Let me bring my notepad. Just allow me a minute. Okay. And then we are going to have a good discussion. Just a second. Till that time, anybody having any question? Just allow me a minute to connect my notepad. Anybody having any questions till now? If not, then just 1 second. Okay. So what all things we discussed? We discussed that for doing the authentication, like for auth to happen, there are multiple strategies. Okay. For example, let's even check what all strategies are available. List of strategies for authentication provider, Spring Security 6. Okay, what all strategies do we have? You can see there is an LDAP strategy, there is a password comparison strategy, there is a custom authentication provider strategy, so on and so forth. Can you see this? Okay. So here you can see I have opened the Spring Security architecture altogether. Okay. The main strategy interface for authentication is the authentication manager. Okay, we are also going to implement an authentication manager, which has only one method, authenticate. Okay. And this authentication manager actually does the internal authentication altogether. Can you see? So there are different providers for the authentication, like password-based authentication, LDAP-based authentication, custom authentication, multiple. Okay. So the most common one is this DAO authentication provider. Okay. What we are going to use, which is the most common one, right, is the DAO authentication provider. Are you guys able to get this point? Now, this DAO authentication provider works on user details object. And who gives you the user details object? Spring Security gives this interface. And what we have done is we have written a wrapper on the top of this user details object for making our passenger being converted to the auth passenger. Remember, we did this. We did a wrapper here. We made a wrapper here. This is here. Auth passenger details. Okay. So this particular strategy works on this user details object. That's why we had to actually convert our passenger object to this compatible object. And access on this object by this provider is done by the user details service. Okay. So if you remember, I wrote a service as well. User details service, which actually has one method, load user by username. Here, this username, they everywhere call it as username, but this is the unique identifier based on which you want to identify the user. So what's going to happen is that, let's say, when the user gave you the email and the plain password, okay, this data is actually fed by the user on our server. Okay. So what will happen is we are going to collect this data. We are going to actually collect this data of the email and the password. Email and the password. Okay. And first of all, what we are going to do is using this email, because this email we are keeping as a unique identifier, we are going to find the passenger by email. Remember, I wrote a repository method as well that can actually help you to find the passenger object by the email. What is this going to return? This is going to return me a whole passenger object, which has all the properties of the passenger, like name of the passenger, email of the passenger, password of the passenger, which is kind of like the encrypted password, and so on. Can I say that, everyone? Can I say that? Right? So now, what the user said that I am this person and this is my password. What we did is we collected this information and we said that, okay, you are claiming to be this person. So let me find out who is the person associated with this particular email. Who is the person associated with this particular email? This is the person or passenger, whatever you want to call, associated to this particular email. Now we have the whole passenger object associated to this email, and we have their encrypted password also. Now what we can do is we can match this password with the password of the user that we have fetched from the database. Can I say that? So technically what you are doing is that you have passenger from DB. Just a second. You have a passenger from your database, and you are going to map it with the email and the password that you have received from the request. And this matching can be done using the authentication provider. Are you guys able to get this point? Drop a quick yes or no in the chat. So what we are going to do now, do you realize why I wrote this particular method? Okay, why we need this service? Because this service takes the email and fetches the passenger for us. Okay, and now here what we are going to do is we are going to create an object of the DAO authentication provider. Okay. And call it as authentication provider is equals to new DAO authentication provider. Are you guys able to get this point? So this is the authentication strategy that we are going to use. Okay. And how many of you guys understood the strategy? That DAO authentication strategy is that you take the email and password, fetch the DAO from the database, and match the properties of the DAO from the incoming properties in the authentication request. Okay. So what we are going to do is we are going to say authentication provider dot set user detail service. Now we have to set a user detail service here. And if you remember, we have a user detail service with us. Remember that. We already have a user detail service with us. So we'll say, let's inject it. Let's inject it. Public user details service. User details service. Okay. And for creating this user detail service, what we will do is we are going to return a new user detail service implementation method. Are you able to get this point? But if you carefully see, this is actually throwing us an error. Why? Because in the constructor, we want to pass a passenger repository as well. We want to pass a passenger repository as well. Can I say that? Yes or no? We need to pass a passenger repository. Yes or no, guys? How can we do this? A simple way can be to make the passenger repository as auto-wired. That can be one simple way. Yes or no? That can be one simple way, guys. Okay. So let's do that. So because we don't have a concrete class for passenger repository, right? So let's do one thing. Let's make it auto-wired. Let's make it auto-wired. We can again replace it with a custom implementation altogether as well. Okay. And then we do not need final. Okay. And here we will come up and you can see user detail services coming up ahead. And we will also call it as a @bean because this object also we will need. So @bean. And here in the set user detail service, I'm going to call this method user detail service. Are you able to get this point? Understood the thing, but we can also fetch user by email. Then yes, Ankan, you can do that. And that will be your custom implementation. If you want, you can definitely do that. No problem. But this is how Spring Security actually expects you to do things if you want to use the full might of the Spring Security altogether. Got it? Okay. And then this authentication provider also needs a .set password encoder. It also needs a password encoder. Set password encoder. We can set the password encoder as, let's say, new bcrypt password encoder. Okay, we are going to set the password encoder as a new bcrypt password encoder. Or a better way would be, you can say @bean public, because maybe you need it somewhere else as well. Password encoder. And here you return new bcrypt password encoder. And you just call this password encoder method here. This is also one way in which you can do the same thing. Okay. Make sense, everyone? Yes, Pawan, you can. But again, like currently I just have a passenger repository interface, right? I then have to make a class and then call the constructor of that class manually. So I just wanted to focus more on the Spring Security part. Got it? Just a doubt. Why do we call the custom implementation auth passenger details class as a wrapper class? Because if you carefully see, this auth passenger details class is neither a passenger nor a driver. It's our passenger wrapper on top of user details, because user details wants get username. We do not have a username in passenger, right? So what we do is we use the passenger to create this object. So that's why I'm calling it as a wrapper class. Okay, Rachel. Now you can actually see, guys, as well, if you will read this set method, set password encoder, and if you go up, can you see there is a password encoder property and there is a user details service property. Can I say that? To implement this DAO authentication provider. And you can see there are a lot of methods. There is a get user details service, get password encoder service, and so on. And if you go up, can you see it has a method retrieve user. Inside the retrieve user method, can you see it is calling your user details service that you have passed? Can I say that? Yes or no? Okay. And if you carefully see, there is a method. This one, create success authentication. So you can see you get the credential, you encode the password, and then you update the password. Can you see there are a lot of methods? There is one method here as well. Sorry, additional auth checks. Can you see there is a presented password? That is the password that is coming in the request. Okay, and this is the password from the user details object that we have got. And can you see password encoder dot matches function? So there is a matches function that is present with your bcrypt password encoder, which is going to match whether the plain password is same as the encrypted password or not. Can you guys see this line? Can you guys see this line, everyone? Okay, so there are methods. Now, otherwise, all of this you have to do yourself. That collect the password from the request, match the password from the encrypted password using the bcrypt password encoder dot matches function. Or do all of that yourself. Or what you can do is you can just set a user details object. You can just set a password encoder, and that's it. And that's it. You can return the authentication provider. Return authentication provider. Okay. And this authentication provider will be eventually called by the authentication manager. Remember, in the docs, we also saw that there is a introduction to the authentication manager, which is going to actually call the authentication function. So what we are going to do is we are going to make one more bean @bean. Okay. We'll call it as public authentication manager. Okay. And this particular authentication manager actually takes a authentication configuration object. Okay. So it takes a authentication configuration object. And here we are going to say return configuration dot get authentication manager. This throws an exception, I believe. Okay, so this throws an exception. Make sense, everyone? Okay, so this authentication manager is eventually going to call your corresponding authentication strategy using the provider. Make sense, guys? Any questions as of now? Any questions as of now? No questions? Okay. Now what we are going to do is we are going to create a new DTO, which will be the auth request DTO. Auth request. And again, as I mentioned, guys, in this Spring Security configuration class, we wrote these two functions so that we can use the internal matching mechanism by Spring. If you do not want to use it, no problem. You can write your own custom implementation as well. I can maybe show you a custom implementation as well after this particular part. Let's see if this particular part works for us or not. Otherwise, every time you have an option to write a custom implementation. In a custom implementation, all you will do is you will write maybe a auth service. Inside the auth service, you're going to just say that, okay, whatever is the incoming email, based on that email, fetch the passenger object. Now match the encrypted password with the incoming password. If it works, then you have authenticated successfully. Right? So you can do all of that logic yourself. Otherwise, you can just use this configuration method and Spring Security will automatically do it for you. Okay. Now, how the auth request DTO should look like. We can say that we should have a private string email, private string password. So we will get the email and the password from the passenger. We'll say @getter, @setter, builder, all Auth constructor. Okay, so we are going to have a DTO object altogether. Make sense, guys? Everyone, is this one making sense? Okay, now let's go to our controller. Let's go to our controller. Okay, now inside the sign-in request, what you are going to get is, you are going to get a request body. And what will be the type of the request body? It will be auth request DTO. Auth request DTO. Okay, this is the request object that you are going to get from the API call. Are you able to get this point, guys? Drop a quick yes or no in the chat. Okay, and then what we can actually do here is, we can say authentication manager, or sorry, we should say authentication. We are going to create a new authentication object, and this authentication object is also coming from Spring Security. We'll say authentication manager, right? And let's quickly check why this is not coming up. Just a second. What am I missing? Oh, my bad. I guess I have not injected it, right? Yep, let's inject it. So you can say private final authentication manager. Okay, and let's inject it as well. Authentication manager. This dot authentication manager is equals to authentication manager. Now Spring has to pass this authentication manager, right? Where it will pass it from? It will pass it from this particular bean object. Can you guys see? Okay, and here we can say authentication manager dot, there is a method called as authenticate. Can you see there is a method called as authenticate? Are you guys able to get this point? Drop a quick yes or no in the chat. Okay, and let's see what this authenticate method actually expects. So we can say there are multiple implementations. Okay, let's go to the implementation somewhere. Implementations. Can you see there are multiple different implementations altogether? Can you guys see this? So what we can actually do is, one second. Let's go to implementation. And can you see there is a implementation of the authentication object called as username password authentication token. Can you see this is a Spring Security implementation that is designed for simple presentation of username and password. The principal and credentials should be set with an object that provides the respective property, and that's it. Can you see what it does is, it takes a principal, it takes a credential like username and password. Okay, and then there is a method called as if I go here, authenticated. Can you see? Authenticated method is coming up here. Can everyone see this? And in fact, there should be a, one second. If I go here, okay, just a second. Can you see? There is something called as set authenticated. There is something called as erase credential. So what it is going to do is, this is going to technically take the username, take the password, and then based on whatever strategy you have provided here, it is going to authenticate the user, right? So what it will do, it will fetch the user from the user detail service, match the password. And if the authentication goes successful, it will say successful to you. So let's see what happens. If I come up here, I will say new username password authentication token. And again, this class is coming to us from what? Coming to us from Spring Security. And we'll say auth request dto.get email. This is the identifier. And auth request dto.get password. And that's it. Okay. Cool. Let's see why this is throwing us an error. Oh, there was a spelling mistake, I guess. Authentication. Okay. And now what you can do is, you can say if authentication dot is authenticated. Can you see there is a method coming up? Dot is authenticated altogether. And if you go to its implementation, this dot authenticated, can you see initially it is false? And let's see where it is used. So find usages. So let's see where all it is used. Let's maybe search for it. Copy. Can you see? It's used multiple places. Let's come up here. This creates some hash code. And here you can see there is some equal mechanism that is coming up. Okay. And this one. Let's close it. Okay. So can you see this dot authenticated property exists with the authentication class? And here you have the setter of the authenticated property. Who is going to call this setter? Who is going to call this setter? If you see find usages, okay, then this is going to be, okay, this is not showing up here. This is not showing up here, but this is going to be called by the corresponding authentication provider altogether that you have actually mentioned here. But we do not have to care about all of that. Spring Security says that you don't have to care about all of this. All you have to do is just check if the authentication worked for you or not. If it did work, let's return something special. So let's say I'll say return new response entity, and I'll send a string successful auth. Okay, successful auth, and I'll say http status dot okay. Otherwise, I'm going to return a auth not successful. I'll just return a string for now. We'll generate the JWT token, no worries. Auth not successful. And this is okay. Cool. Looks good. Looks good to me. So you can see we have an API up. Let's see. Let's run the code and see whether the code is compiling properly or not, first of all. Okay, the code is compiling properly. No problem there. Now let's sign up. Okay, let's sign up with a new passenger. So the email that I'm going to call as admin@test.com. Password is 12345. If I send a post request, can you see this has created the user for me? No problem. Now I'll create a new request, add request. I'll say it as passenger sign in. Passenger sign in. I'll make a post request here. And I say this slash one second. This should be /sign in. Okay. And now in the body, I'm going to pass a JSON object. What should be the properties of the JSON object? Email and password. Email and password. Let's get the email and password from here. So I'll copy this, paste it here. Make sense? And let's see if what happens if we send the request. You can see the server is up. If I send it, okay, so this says 403 forbidden. Let's quickly check. What's the controller method like? Slash sign in slash passenger. Right, copy. Let's put it here. Ta-da. Oh, my bad. Can you see this is a get mapping? I need to make it a post mapping. Okay, this is a post request that I'm sending. So let's resend the request. Sorry, restart the server. I'll change it to a post request. Can you see? Let's try now. If I send it. Okay, this still actually throws us an error. Let's see why. So let's go to the security config. Slash API slash v1 slash sign in. No, matchers URL is there. Let's just quickly check. Slash sign in. Let's see if we are having the request coming up here or not. So system.out.request received. Okay, let's try it again. Meanwhile, let me copy this sign in from here and put it here. I don't see as a spelling issue as such. Okay, let's try it out. Send it. It's okay. So request is being received. Can you see? The request is being received. Let's see what is happening. The request is being received. And can you see there is a query that has been actually executed? And can you see what is the query? Select this from passenger where email is equals to this. Are you able to get this point? Are you able to get this point, guys? So let's do one thing. So technically what's happening is this is indeed fetching the corresponding user for us. It's not matching the password probably in the correct way. So let's just see what the request object we are receiving. Auth request duty get email plus auth dot get password. Let's see what is the email and password we are receiving. Let's restart the server. So 403 forbidden is coming because probably the request is not working properly for us. But let's see if I send the request again. Okay, so you can see we are receiving the properties properly, no problem. And it says empty encoded password. Let us see why it says empty encoded password. Let's check the database very quickly. Select star from passenger. Run it. And okay, so we have admin@test.com. That is good. And we have a password here. Let's see what might be an issue. So you can see the request is being collected. That is good. And like at least the win part is that it is automatically calling our user details service IMPL to fetch the passenger. Can I say that? It is technically calling this repository method already and fetching the password altogether. Yes or no? Now let's see what might be missing here. Let's see what might be missing here altogether. So what we might have missed. Because now the only thing left is we have to just generate the token. That is it. Nothing more, nothing less. Okay, I believe I know the issue. So in auth passenger details. Let's see this user details. Okay. Can you see there is one more method, get password? We have not overridden the method get password. Can I say that? If you go here, can you see we have not overridden the method get password? We should technically override the method get password as well. Otherwise, it will always take the empty password. So public string get password, and we should say return this dot password. Make sense? Let's restart the server. Probably this was missing. Let's try again. Send it. And can you see this is a successful auth? And if I send a wrong password, 123456, again, it's an unsuccessful auth. That means this is not working properly. Can you guys see this? This is 403 forbidden. That means unauthorized. This is an unauthorized request. Can you guys see this? Drop a quick yes or no in the chat, guys. Okay. So probably we can put a else here and put this here. Okay. Or let's see. Anything else that we can do? Or maybe what we can do here is, let's see, 1 second. Let's send it here. Okay. Let's try again. Okay. 403 forbidden coming up. If I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, successful auth. If let's say the email doesn't exist, ad@test.com doesn't exist. If I send it, again, 403 forbidden coming up, right? So all of these things making sense to you, right? So I believe what we can do here is, we can say, throw new username not found exception. User not found. Let's say something like this if I send it. Okay. But can you see, it is automatically matching the password and everything. We have not written any custom logic altogether. If I send it, okay, let's see. Okay, I guess it will just why it's not sending any response. Let's just quickly check. Spring security only sending 403 forbidden, but no response. Okay, let's see why it's not sending any response. Okay, CSRF protection is off or not? 1 second. Let's go here. That's off. Okay. Let's quickly check. Any other thing, but like main thing is our I would say authentication is working. Okay, our authentication is working. Let's quickly check. We have all this password encoder. We have this is what we have. Let's just check the main method. Ta-da. I guess we might have to write a custom handler. Okay, so probably what we can actually do is, we can say dot exception handling, right? Okay, so let's read this method dot exception handling. Okay, I guess there is some method like this. Exception handling Spring security. Okay, you can see there's a exception handling configurer. Let's come up here, and what we can actually do is, okay, this is this, this is this. Okay, and with @ exception handler. Okay, so we have to use the exception handler. Exception handling we have yet to discuss. This is an interesting topic where we'll also talk about Spring advices. So maybe we can park it for some time. We can park it for some time. For now, we can say that 403 forbidden is going to come up in case of unsuccessful auth. And in case of successful auth, we are going to get whatever response we are sending. Okay, so that is something that we can do. But before we move forward and generate the JWT token, okay, exception handling we are going to do separately for most of the things in the service. So I'm not going to cover it as of now. But if I come up here, are you guys able to get this point that all of the authentication logic has now been taken by Spring security themselves? Yes or no? Yes or no, guys? Okay. Now, do you think when the authentication is successful, we should create a brand new JWT token? Do you guys think that? And to create a JWT token, do you remember we have a JWT service that can actually create the token for us? Yes or no? How many of you guys remember this? Okay. So what we can do is we can say, let's do something like this. String JWT token is equals to JWT service. We need to get the JWT service. JWT service. And we'll inject this. We'll say this dot JWT service is equals to JWT service. Okay. We'll inject this and we can say JWT service dot. Okay, I guess there is a bunch of private methods there. We can make them public. Yeah, let's make it public because we have to use it outside the class. So public method should be used. And probably we should make all of these public because all of these methods are going to be used by the object of this class, but outside this class. So let's make all of these public. Okay. And we can say dot create token. Make sense, guys? There's a method called as dot create token that we can actually use. Yes or no, everyone? Everybody, is this point making sense that there is a create token method? Okay. Now, inside this create token method, what we can do is, first of all, the second parameter that we can pass can be the email, right? So I can say, I believe dot, this should be dot get principal. Okay. This dot get principal, as far as I know, takes your email altogether. Okay. And apart from this, we can actually make a map, right? So let's do that. So let's say a map of string comma object MP is equals to new hash map. Let's not name it as MP. Instead, let's name it as payload. Okay. This should be a map. And inside this payload, I'll say payload dot put. Let's put it as, for example, email as. So we'll be having email at two places, in this one in the subject and one in the email property. But let's see, authentication request DTO dot get email. Okay, it's for just demonstration purpose I'm doing it. Otherwise, subject should be more than enough also. And here we can do payload. Okay. And this should be dot toString. Cool. So you can see we have a JWT token that should be technically generated. Now what I can do is, in case of successful auth, I'm going to return this JWT token. Let's restart the server. You can see the server is up. Let's do a successful registration, like I would say sign in. Okay. You can see this would be admin@test.com. Send it. And can you see we are able to create a successful JWT token? If I copy this token and if I go to jwt.io, let's see what's the payload of the token. Okay. Can you see what's the payload of the token is? There is an email property, this, and there is a subject property. In that subject property, it has the object reference. Can I say that? So technically what we can do is, let's not take the authentication.get principal. Otherwise, it is taking the whole object altogether. Let's see if we have anything else that we can use. Get details. Okay. Let's see what is the get details method gonna give us. Okay, this also gives us an object only. Let's do get credentials. Let's see what is inside the get credentials. Okay. Otherwise, we can just directly pass the email, no problem there. Let's do a get credentials. Let's see what is the credentials coming up. Okay. So send it. Okay, so there is an error coming up. Da-da-da. Okay, so the get credential method doesn't have a. Okay, so it's setting it as none. Okay, so let's do one thing. Let's not do this much amount of effort. In the JWT service, we have a method to create a token based on custom payload also, right? We can write one more method, public string create token. Okay, one more create token method. And in this one, you can just pass the email. You can just pass the corresponding email. In case you don't want to have other properties in the token, you can just pass the email altogether. Are you guys able to get this point? Okay. And what I can do is I can say return create token, but with an empty hash map, new hash map, comma email. This is something that we can do here. So let's not pass both of the things. Let's just say create token auth request GTO dot get email, and that's it. If I run it again, send it. You can see we have the token, copy, paste, and you can see this time you just have issued at, expiry at, and the subject is admin@test.com. How many of you guys are able to get this point? Drop a quick yes or no in the chat, guys. That we are able to now generate a JWT token as well. Yes or no? We are able to now generate a JWT token as well, guys. Anybody having any questions? Okay. Now remember, we talked about the fact that we should not send the token directly plain. Where should we send the token to? Guys, how should we send the token to? The corresponding client. How should we send it to the client? Okay. HTTP only token we have to send. HTTP only cookie we have to send. Now, how do you configure cookies? How do you configure cookies? So there is something called as response cookies that you can configure. So response cookie in Spring Boot. You can configure something called as response cookie. Can you see there is a response cookie class? Inside this response cookie class, there is a lot of method, and one of them is HTTP only. So what you have to do is you have to actually set a response cookie inside your header. Are you able to get this point? Everyone. Now, every time what we do is, we just send a corresponding return object. But how, what if I want to set the headers? If you want to set the headers, then in the controller method, apart from your DAO, apart from your DTO, you can take one more object. HTTP servlet response. And inside this response, there are methods like you can say response dot set header. Can you see? In this particular response object, you can actually set the corresponding headers. And this response object, you don't need to separately return it. This response object automatically gets returned to the client. For example, if I set a header custom and set it value as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as a string. Okay. If I run the code, let's do the authentication again. Send it. If I see the headers, can you see there is a custom header with a value 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 already sent? And do you see, did I send the response back? Did I send the response back? Guys, anywhere am I returning the response? No. This response automatically gets returned. Are you able to get this point? So here, what I can do is I can set a cookie. HTTP headers dot set cookie. I can actually set cookie and send some data in the form of a cookie. If I send the request, if I restart the server and send the request again. Now, can you see the custom header is not coming? Instead, if you go to the cookies, you have a custom cookie coming up here. Are you guys able to get this point? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And is the type of the cookie HTTP only? No, it's false. So now let's create a cookie. And what is the object that we can use to create a cookie? We can say response cookie is equals to one second. We can say response cookie is equals to response cookie dot from. Okay. And we are going to say JWT token. And we are going to pass the token here. So let's create the token first. Command X, Command V. Let's create the token first. And then we can pass the JWT token. Okay. So we are going to set the JWT token. And then we can actually set the properties. Like the first property should be HTTP only to true. Okay. The second property should be let's say secure to false. Okay. Secure to false. Okay. And you can even set a dot max age, which will be equal to the cookie expiry. Remember, we had a cookie expiry here. Let's see, we configured the cookie expiry somewhere, right? Didn't we configure the cookie expiry anywhere? Let's quickly check. Did I configure the cookie expiry anywhere? We did configure some expiry, right? Yeah. Oh, sorry. We just did the token expiry. Okay. So let's do one thing. Inside my application.properties, let's have one more cookie.expiry. Okay. We can say 3600 for this as well. We'll go to the controller and let's have a property here. Private int cookie expiry. And we can say @value cookie.expiry. Okay. So this cookie expiry we can use. And then we can call a dot build on it. Make sense? Let's indent it properly. Okay. And now we are going to send this particular cookie altogether. So if I run the code again, okay, it throws us an error. What's the error? Cookie.expiry. Was there a spelling mistake? Copy. Oh, my bad. There should be a curly brace. Let's restart the server. Okay, so the server is up. And if I send the request again, one second. If I send the request again, let's see. Now inside the headers, can you see there is no content or anything, right? If I go to the cookies, let's do one thing. I guess we have to set a path as well. There is something called as a path as well that we have to set. Dot path as slash. Okay, let's restart. Okay, also guys, this secure false, a lot of you guys might be thinking, what is the secure false? When you do secure false, then this cookie can be sent over an HTTP request. If you do secure to true, then it will be only sent over an HTTPS request. Okay, so I guess that's the difference. Let's try again. Let's try again. Oh, my bad. I'm creating this cookie, but I'm never setting the cookie. Can you guys see? I'm creating this cookie, but I'm never setting this cookie. So let's do, I'm setting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 only. That should not be the case. We should say cookie dot toString. And let's rerun it. Send it. And can you see there is a JWT token that is coming up? This is our token. And what is the type of the cookie? HTTP only to true. Can I say that, guys? Everyone. Is this point making sense? And let's try out one thing. Okay. So I believe everybody knows about fetch. Right. Everybody knows about fetch API in the browser. So let's copy this and let's take a post request. Okay. So just a second. I might be already having it ready. Let's copy paste it from somewhere directly. Okay, can you see? This can be a simple fetch request that we can actually send. Can you guys see this? Let's copy it out. Let's copy everything and paste it here. What is the URL? Let's get the whole URL. Copy and paste. Method is post. Okay. And we are going to send the object as this. Copy, paste. Okay. Let's see what is the response that we are going to get. Okay, let's see what is the response that we are going to eventually get. So let's call this method. And can you see we have been blocked by the CORS policy? Are you able to get this point? So what is the CORS policy? CORS means cross origin request. Now we are making a request from my browser, which is running on a different port, or you can say when we will deploy it, then it will be running on a different machine as well. And our server is running somewhere else. What do you have to do? You have to allow CORS. How can you do that? You can say dot CORS as CORS dot disable. For now, I'm going to disable CORS altogether. But later, what you can do is you can configure that which particular front end should only send you a request. Okay, you can actually identify which particular type of a front end should send you a request. In case like this will be more useful when you have a microservice architecture where you do not want anybody to send a request to this particular service. But for now, I'm just going to disable it. Let's try it out again. Let's refresh maybe. Let's see, we have disabled CORS. That is good. CORS.disable. Okay, let's quickly check. Disable CORS in Spring Boot. Okay. Add CORS mapping. I guess we have to send a bunch of headers probably. Just a second. Let's see. Okay. So http.cors and csrf.disable.authorize request. Okay, got it. So I believe we should say dot One second. No, we do not have to do it here. Let's see what else we can do for this. Okay, so there is this bean that we can actually generate. Okay. But this is to allow from a specific domain. Okay, so let's do this. Let's have this bean. I'll just copy paste it for a moment because I just want to show it from the browser to you guys. Save it. And let's import the required set of objects. We do not need this. We need this. We're going to allow it from anyone. Immutable list. Why it's not working? Let's see. Why immutable list is not working? Let's quickly check. Immutable list. Okay. We can allow from java.util.star, right? Why it's not coming up there? Anybody is able to see why this immutable list is not working? Data. Interesting. What is the expected input? It takes a list only, right? So let's do a list.off. Okay, let's do a list.off instead of an immutable list. Let's get unblocked first. Okay, let's rerun the server. Let's see if CORS gets enabled for us or not. So, same issue. Let's refresh. Interesting. So we have done CORS configuration, configuration.set allowed origin, get push post method, all of this, allow credentials to true. Okay, let's see. Okay, so this is something that I can do, http.cors. Okay. Let's try it out this one. Actually, the docs are changed. The Spring security docs have been changed very recently. Security, Spring Boot, Spring security. Okay, let's check some Medium articles. Maybe a latest one. These are all old configs. Okay, 9 months ago should be good. Okay. Configuration class, string allowed methods, this, web MVC configurer, registry add mapping. In your application.yaml file, we need to configure below. Okay. Spring Boot starter security, course, and everything we have done. Okay, yeah, this one we were already doing, right? Set allowed origin, set allowed method. Let's quickly check. We are doing set allowed origin, set allowed method, set allowed credentials, set allowed headers. Yep. Anything else that we have to configure? Course configuration. Anybody is able to find out? Can you guys also parallelly Google what are the solution people are suggesting to disable pause in the latest? Just always check the latest one because the docs have changed a lot. Just check the latest one. Add mapping, allowed origin patterns. Okay, people are even saying this one. But for this, we have to implement web MVC configurer. Let's see. Can we implement that? Implements web MVC configurer. Okay. And let's override this method. Copy and paste here. Course registry. Allowed patterns as let's do a star. Let's do a star here. Let's try it out again. Let's refresh. Okay, yeah. Can you see now it's working? So that's the configuration that we need. And there is a promise coming up. Okay. And let's quickly check. Okay. So can you see now this is working? Now this is working. And I believe we do not need this. We do not need this. Okay. So this is the course mapping that I have added. Okay. Based on the latest Spring Boot code or Spring Security code. And let's do one more thing. In the auth controller, currently I was sending JWT token, right? Let's only send success. Okay, let's only send success in the form of a string. Okay, let's only send success. If I restart the code, and I'll also paste the link of the Medium article where I got it from, so that you guys also have it as a reference. Okay. Cool. So let's try again. Let's try again. Refresh. Success is not a valid JSON. Let's return a JSON in that case. Auth controller. Let's say we don't even send it. Let's not return anything. Let's return an empty string. Okay. Because I just want to show you the HTTP only cookie. Ankan, we are done. We are done. We are done with that. Let's refresh. Unexpected JSON again and again is coming up. Oh, so let's do one thing. Okay, let's do even a better thing. Okay, let's make a auth response DTO. Otherwise, it will keep on throwing us error. Let's create a new Java class, and I'll say auth response DTO. Inside this auth response DTO, I'm going to have a public Boolean success. Okay, public Boolean success. @getter, @setter, @builder. Okay, and here let's do one thing. In the auth controller, in the body, what we are going to do is we are going to say auth response DTO dot builder dot success to true dot build. Okay, let's send this particular DTO altogether. Let's restart again. Send it. Oh, sorry, not here. From here. Let's send it again. And you can see success is coming as true. Can I say that? Okay. Now let's do one thing. Let's keep an eye on the network tab as well. Okay. Can you see success is coming as true? And let's do one thing. Let's fetch all the requests. Let's just do it once more. Let's do it once more. Success to true. Can you see there is a request that has been sent, which is a fetch request? Okay. Now, if I expand it up, what was the payload? Email and the password. What is the response? Success true. Can you see these cookies are actually coming up? Can you see these cookies are actually coming up here? Can you see this? everyone? Okay. Now, let's say how to access cookies from JS. Okay. JavaScript cookies. So what you can actually do is, you can see, you can get the document.cookie. So if you do document.cookie, okay, this is the cookie that is actually present. Can you see? Are you guys able to find the JWT token here? Let's copy it here and maybe open Sublime. Okay. If I do, can you see there is nothing like JWT altogether coming? Okay. And apart from that, let's see a few more cookie methods. Okay. Just a second, back. Get all cookies using JS. Okay. So you can see there's a get cookies methods. Okay. So let's try it out. Let's try it out. And if I do this here and I call get cookies. Okay. Again, if you don't understand basic JavaScript, don't worry. This is just to show what's going on here. Can you see these are the set of cookies that are actually present with us? Are you able to get this point? Are you able to get this point, guys? Whereas on other websites, there can be more cookies. For example, if I do an inspect, if I do a console, you get cookies. Can you see there are more cookies on a GFG website? Can you see so many cookies coming up on the GFG website? Are you guys able to get this point? Say yes or no in the chat. Everyone. So this is how you can access the cookies, right? And can you see we are not using JavaScript. We are not able to fetch the cookies that was actually sent to our corresponding request. Okay. Now, let's try to play with this. How about we make this HTTP only cookie to false? Let's make it false. Let's restart the server. And this time, maybe I'll open it in incognito to make sure that nothing is cached or anything. I'll make an inspect call, console. And from here, I'll copy the whole request. Copy, paste. And once again, it says failed to fetch. What happened? Let's try it from here. Okay, can you see at least from our postman, the HTTP only property is coming as false. That's okay. And let's see why this actually failed. It says fail to fetch. Okay, why it's failing to fetch? Let's try again. Okay, maybe let's open a new tab just. Command Shift R, Command Shift R. Okay. Okay, now it went. And if I see here, can you see this time the HTTP property is not checked up? If you carefully remember, here the HTTP only property was checked. Can you see? The HTTP only property was checked. That means it was a HTTP only cookie. Now let's do one thing. Let's try to get the cookies here. So let's try to get the cookies and let's see. Let's see document.cookie. This is the whole cookie now coming up. Okay. If I copy this, paste it here, and let's search for Command F, EY. Okay. Let's see, 1 second. Let's see how do we fetch it. We set HTTP headers to set cookie. 1 second. Let's see the headers that are coming up. headers and cookie. Can you see inside this cookie, we have this JWT token property coming up. Okay. The moment I make it a HTTP only cookie to true, okay, and resend, one second. Just a second, guys. Okay. Now let's send the request again. Let's send the request again. Okay. Let's close this incognito tab and console. Request sent again. Network. You can see this is another request. And this time we are getting this as HTTP only. Whereas, can you see? This one was not HTTP only cookie. Yes or no? Everyone. Right. So let's do one thing. Let's clear all the cookie. Let's see how do we clear all the cookie. Clear cookie in using JS. Let's clear all the cookies. Okay. So this methods, let's copy this. Come up here, console, come up here, paste it, delete all cookies. If I do document.cookie, okay, this is still coming up. Why it's not deleting it? Da-da. Okay. We can also access this browser.cookies. One second. Okay, so there is a cookies API as well. There is a cookies API as well inside. Okay, yeah, this one is better. This one is better. Cookies.get. This one should be relatively better. Okay, so let's do it. Document dot cookie or one second. How to use the cookie browser API? Just a second, I forgot it. Work with the cookies API. Okay, and let's see. Browser.cookies, it is saying. Da, da, da. Cookies.cookies, cookies.cookie store. Okay, let's try to access it. Cookie store. Oh, sorry. Cookie store. Let's see the cookie store and how to access or how to get a cookie. Let's see how to get a cookie using JS. Okay, get cookie by name. That's what we need. We don't need to write this much method, do we? I believe there is a set cookie, get cookie method that should be accessible. Let's see, set cookie in browser.js. Okay. Oh, on the window object is there. One second, let's see. Okay, so this is on the window object. In that case, window dot, yeah, on the window object it is there. Windows dot get cookies. Yeah. Okay, cool. So you can do something like this. Window dot there is one set cookie method as well, right? There is one set cookie method as well. Set cookie MDL. Okay. This one cookies.set. Windows.cookie. Let's try with window.cookies.set. Okay. Window dot. Okay, it just says get cookies only. Da-da-da. Okay. Let's start with get cookies only. Okay, let's do one thing. Get cookies. Okay. So these are the set of cookies. And let's see what do we have on the backend. We have HTTP only to false. Let's make it false. So that this should be accessible by JavaScript. Okay. And let's make the request. Now do window.get cookies. Okay, this is not coming up here. Let's see. Let's Google it. Probably I'm forgetting some browser API. How to get a cookie returned from a browser request, or let's do one thing. There's a very interesting HTTP only cookie article on Medium, as far as I remember. This one. I believe there should be some methods which they have exposed. Not this one also. The cookie document.cookie set cookie. Okay. So this is the network request. They are setting the cookie, which is not a JWT cookie altogether. Okay. Let's Google it. How to get a cookie returned from a request. Okay. Okay, so we can do a get header cookie. Okay, let's try it out. Using JS. Document.cookies return nothing. Document.cookie. I need to check probably. Why exactly HTTP only false is also returning us nothing? Because this is false. This is false. Okay, so you're using some third-party library. I guess this is possible without the third-party library also. I'm forgetting. Let's see if there is some nice docs or something. If you want to get a cookie, okay, so they are suggesting you should always write everything. But okay, maybe I'll check it. I'll check it how we can actually verify, because both the HTTP only true and false, both the cookies we are not able to see here, right? We are not able to see both the cookies, but I have tried it out earlier. This generally, like in at least the JS code that I have tried, Node.js code. Let's see. Let's do one thing. One second. Okay. So I have a Node.js backend. Was I setting something in a different way there? So we have controllers, auth controller, user control, sign in, rest.cookie token. What we are setting here is JWT token, and yep. This is more or less same. This is more or less same. How to access a non-HTTP on the cookie. Let's do a last try. Cookie without HTTP only flag set. Okay, so let's get that Medium article. How to store JWT token on browser. Okay, so there is, like, generally I share the same article every time. I'll also find that article and share with you guys. That's a Medium article where it talks about the JWT HTTP only cookie. Okay. So let's see. Local storage is bad. The HTTP only. 1 second. So local storage, so we will be able to directly see local storage. So we will be able to directly see and directly access. Okay, so we return a cookie in this form, response.set cookie in this form in Python. This is for JS. Okay. You can see this is for JS and this dot cookie HTTP only to true. Okay, one second. Let's see how they are accessing the JWT here. Okay, they are probably getting it from the response. Okay, I'll check how you can actually, like, I'll try to do this thing. I'll try to make sure that we are able to test this HTTP only cookie on the browser as well. I'm not sure why we are not able to get the non-HTTP only cookie also, because HTTP only cookie though we are not able to get, but even the non-HTTP only cookie we are not able to get. You can see most of the time it's a straightforward set of options, right? Token and options. And let's see. Cookie has been set. And HTTP only to true. Has been set along with the request, and it contains our token cookie. Okay, I'll see that how we can validate it, how we can actually validate it. We'll try to see that. Okay, so that's a task on my end. Let's not get blocked there. But I believe the overall authentication mechanism now is end-to-end working. We are able to not only just authenticate if the user is correct or not, but we are also able to generate the token. We are able to set it in the cookie, and we are able to set the cookie as well and send the cookie back. And we are able to see the cookie here also. Can you see? We are able to see the cookie here as well. Let's restart the server. Any questions from the till the cookie setting part? Any questions till the cookie setting part? Anyone? You can see we are able to set the cookie as well. I'll see how we can do the demonstration on the browser. Maybe I have to write some code for that, but maybe in the next class I'll try to prepare that. Okay. But apart from that, we are able to now authenticate all of the incoming requests. How many of you guys are able to get this point? Drop a quick yes or no in the chat. Now there is one small thing left here. Can anybody tell me what is the small thing left here? Now what we have done is we have given the JWT token back to the user by authenticating the user. Now what will happen is every time the user is going to send this same JWT token in our requests. Can I say that? Yes or no, guys? Yes or no, everyone? And we have to validate whether the incoming JWT token is correct or not. Yes or no? We have to check that, right? I gave you guys a homework to identify how can we do this thing. Like, because now what we have to do is whatever are the incoming set of requests, we have to intercept those requests. How can we intercept those requests? Anybody did the homework? Okay. Handler interceptor. Okay. Anybody else? Nobody did this? Nobody tried it out? I'll also commit everything up till here. Authentication added successfully. Auth added successfully. Okay. Ankan says Ankan tried. Apart from Ankan, nobody else tried? Guys, okay. So let me tell you what is the expectation. Okay. Probably in the last class, I was not able to set the expectation properly. So the expectation here is, so from my browser, or in our case, let's say Postman or any client, what we are going to do is we are going to actually send a request. We are going to send a request to what? To our Auth server. Okay. We are going to send a request to the corresponding Auth server. And inside this request, what you are going to send? You are going to send your email and password. And what is the Auth server going to respond back with? The Auth server is going to respond back with the JWT token. Yes or no, guys? Yes or no? Now, what will happen is this Postman or browser will now try to access access some resource server. Can I say that, guys? It will try to access some resource server. Yes or no? Okay. It will try to access some resource server. Okay. Now, while trying to access this resource server, it is also going to send the same JWT token that we shared it to. And then what resource server is going to do is, resource server is going to validate that whether the incoming JWT token is fine or not. Yes or no? Yes or no, guys? Everyone, is this point making sense? And if the Auth server said that yes, the incoming request is good, then the resource server will process the request and give the corresponding response back. Otherwise, it is going to throw an error back altogether. Is this point making sense, everyone? This was the architecture that we discussed as well. This was the architecture we discussed as well, guys. Now, what we have to do is, that here, inside this Auth server, we might want to have a validate API. We might want to have a validate API altogether. Okay. Now, inside this validate API, we are going to collect the JWT token and check its validity. Now, again, the same thing. You can write your custom implementation. You can write your custom implementation altogether to implement this validate API. Or you can again use something from Spring Security. You can again use something from Spring Security altogether. Are you guys able to get this point? Okay. So now this is going to be your homework, guys. This is going to be your homework. Only Ankan has done this. Only Ankan has done this. And Ankan has only tried to implement something like interceptor, or there's something called as filters as well that you can use. Okay. Now what I want you guys to do is, now you have a working Auth. You are able to get the token. You are able to create the token, everything. Now what I want you guys to do is, I want you to write an API /validate that should technically validate our request inside our Auth server. Now this validation you can write manually. You can also write it manually, or you can use something from Spring Security in order to fetch this particular data. Does that point make sense? Is this point making sense, guys? Drop a quick yes or no in the chat. And you have to think about all possible corner cases, because, okay, I'll give you one more corner case. Whatever custom implementation you write, or you write a Spring Security implementation, doesn't matter, because inside your Auth server, you'll be having more APIs, which will be around your roles. Like, for example, add role or remove role, right? Maybe your passenger is a premium passenger. Your rider is a Uber Black rider. These kind of roles you can actually add. Okay. When you are adding a role, then you will be not connecting to any resource server. You will be directly connecting to the Auth server. And then also you need to use this same validation mechanism. Can I say that? So this validation mechanism should be present in a way such that if somebody else wants to use the auth server for validation, they can use that. Or if the auth server itself wants to use the validation logic, it can also use that. How many of you guys are able to get this point? Okay. I know the Spring security part might be slightly overwhelming. Okay. It happens that because Spring security is a very configuration driven package. It's one of the most, like when I launched the course as well, most of the people who just commented on the video was with the fact that, are we going to cover Spring security or not? Okay. Because Spring security expects either you to do everything on your own. If you have to do everything on your own, then you don't even need Spring security. Then you don't need to install even Spring security for most of the things. But if you want to use Spring security altogether, then it actually expects you to do some configuration. Those configuration, every time when you will do, you will feel like, can we not do it ourselves? Yes, you can do it yourself. But again, that's what configuration driven programming is. Are able to get this point? Like a lot of things you can do manually, but that's what Spring Boot overall does for you. That you don't have to do everything manually. You just do the corresponding configuration and that's it. Because, for example, here also, like in the Spring security here, we just set the user detail service and the password encoder. We didn't write any single piece of logic here. Can I say that? Can I say that? Okay. Also, just because only Ankan has actually done the homework, Ankan, just do one thing. Drop an email to algocamproot@gmail.com. I'll share you the email. algocamproot@gmail.com. Okay. Just send me your address and your contact information. I'll send you a cool AlgoCamp goodie at your place because you are the only one who has done the homework. And I really appreciate those people who take the homework seriously because these are not very easy topics. Whenever you will go in a company, guys, there is a highly likely chance you will never even get the chance to work on Spring security because most of the time Spring security will be already configured for you, right? So to work on Spring security from scratch is a different experience in itself. And only Ankan has done that. So I want to make sure that we recognize Ankan's effort, right? So, and tomorrow's homework, like, I guess we have a class tomorrow. I'm not sure. Just check the announcement. I don't know the schedule for the next week. Okay, whenever we have the next class, just check that. And what we are going to do is we are going to implement this /validate so that we are able to validate our authentication process altogether. Because once this is done, one of the main complex part of our overall application will be done with us. Make sense, guys? Anybody having any questions? Anybody having any questions, guys? If no questions, then in that case, let's wrap today's session here. We are going to meet soon in the next session, guys. Till then, take care. Bye-bye. Have a really lovely week ahead and keep coding, everyone.